Hi, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from StreetScores, and are we ready for another mock draft? Now, granted, I'm doing this one today because I wanted to go ahead and knock out a pre-combine mock draft before I do a post-combine mock draft, because there will more than likely be a lot of changes. But here, we're here to do a lot of things. First of all, this is an entire mock off season, which is my third one this off season of doing. So that means free agency. That means who do we re-sign from the Commanders free agents list, like guys like Bobby Wagner, Jeremy Chin, Tress Way. We got to dive into that free agency, draft, everything. Mock draft. I have a trade back scenario in this mock draft. Matter of fact, I trade back twice in this mock draft. So there's a lot going on here. This video is probably going to end up being very long because I'm going to make sure I break down every little thing and explain my exact reasoning for every decision that I make in this video. Again, starting with how much cap space we have, who do we re-sign from the Commanders before free agency even starts, how much cap space do we have after that, then what are our top needs after we re-sign our guys, then what do we sign in free agency, and then so on and so forth, what are our top needs going into the draft and things like that. So buckle up, man. Out of the way before we get into everything. Oh, also, I have a trivia question for you. I'll give you the answer at the end of the video. What NFL veteran acquired via trade in 1999 quarterback Washington to a 10-6 record and the NFC East title his first season in the nation's capital? And I did not have this. Now, granted, I was barely even knowing what football was at this point in time, so that's probably why I don't have the answer. But hey, I got you the answer at the end of the video. And before we dive into everything, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. And we're gonna go ahead and dive into this video right now, man. Let's get it. Adam. All right, so first of all, as of today, we have $82 million in cap space. That's the third most in the NFL, only behind the Patriots and the Arizona Cardinals. Now, of course, there's this possibility that we end up cutting or trading away Jonathan Allen. We'll get to that later. Again, we're going step by step what makes the most sense in order of when things may happen. I mean, it would be nice that, since we potentially plan on moving on from Jonathan Allen, we could do that first. But I want to dive into some of the guys that we need to re-sign before we even get to the extra cap space we'll get from cutting or trading Jonathan Allen. And I'm also including some slight discounts when I'm talking about like projected contracts and cap hits from not only guys that we plan on re-signing from the 2024 Commanders, but also outside free agents, because I believe a lot of people will want to do whatever it takes to be a part of this Super Bowl contender. They may be willing to take a little less money here than they would elsewhere. I mean, Jeremy Chin bet on himself and took less money to come here than to go elsewhere last year. And that was after a 4-win season. That was just off of the strength of the coaching staff that we put together. Let alone, we just went to the NFC Championship and Jada Daniels is already a top 5 quarterback and coming out of his rookie season, making rookie deal money, which allows us to have all of this flexibility with the cap space to go and sign big names or a bunch of guys at different positions that we need. And then on top of all of that, you have insiders to the NFL like Adam Schefter saying before the trade deadline, remember leading up to that trade deadline, that's when we were like in our 3-loss like streak where like we were like down, like that was like the worst we felt all season, and players were still calling and telling their agents, please trade me to the Commanders. That was before we even finished the season on that hot streak and winning 12 games in the regular season, winning 2 playoff games, most notably at Detroit, the way that not only did we beat them, but we like whooped them. That players wanted to be traded to the Commanders before all of that even happened, let alone after the season. So I just feel like we will be able to get some small discounts. I'm not saying anything dramatic, like somebody's going to come here and take half of the money that they would take with another team. But don't be surprised if some people are like, man, I mean, hey, I'll take a more contract incentivized, roster bonus type of contract rather than like super guaranteed money so that I can go compete for Super Bowl, especially with a lot of these guys. When we're talking free agency, they're moving on to their second or even third contracts. They're ready to go compete for Super Bowls. They probably already made a lot of money and they're ready to go to a winner, even if they're just coming off of their first contract and they want big money. But they already know, hey, man, this Super Bowl window thing isn't always open. Then you even have Mike Florio, who, before Adam Peters and Josh Harris and Dan Quinn and all these guys, was one of the biggest Commanders haters doing it. And then right as soon as the season ended, he said that we will be one of the top free agency destinations out of the entire NFL. And that he specifically worded it as, we'll win a lot of jump balls. If the money is in anywhere near in similar range, the players will choose the Commanders over most other teams in the NFL. So just to give you an idea of why I have these projected cap hits. Now, I'm referencing Spot Track. Like, they have their market values, and I'm kind of using that as a reference, and then I'll probably go like a little bit lower than that just for the sake of having fun, but also I think it's a realistic thing that people will take a little less money to be a part of this Super Bowl contender. Now, re-signings, off rip. First of all, punter Tress Way, I think maybe like a $3 million per year deal, you know, good punter money, cool. Short and simple, keep your punter. That's our franchise punter right there. He could probably do it for a few more seasons, like a few more years. Number 2, safety Jeremy Chin. I would bring him back, you know, maybe for like a $5 million a year deal. Now, if we don't bring him back, I'm definitely targeting Talanoa Hufanga from the 49ers, but he'll probably cost more than Jeremy Chin, and I think you can make an argument that maybe he's better than Jeremy Chin. I'm happy either way, but I'd say we're more than likely just going to end up bringing Jeremy Chin back. He bet on this franchise last year by taking way less money to play for us than what other teams are offering him. I think they kind of reward him for his loyalty and the fact that, you know, he's already fits the scheme very well. And, you know, as the year went on, he got better and better, and he's one of our best tacklers statistically. My last Rico report a few days ago, I gave y'all the stats as to how Bobby Wagner and Jeremy Chin were 2 of the 10 best tacklers in the NFL statistically last year. I think it was according to Next Gen Stats, but that's something you can go check out that video from a few days ago where I completely broke that down because I already kind of forgot some of that information. I'm not gonna lie. Then number 3, if and only if Bobby Wagner is actually willing to sign this contract that Spot Track is predicting, then Bobby Wagner on a 1-year, $7.2 million deal. I personally think he's going to ask for more than that. If he does, then it is what it is. Then let's go get Nick Bolton or whoever else in free agency, maybe, or you prioritize linebacker in the draft very quickly or something like that. Or maybe like a Dre Greenlaw. There's options out there outside of Bobby Wagner. I prefer to just go ahead and bring back Bobby Wagner, more so for his leadership and the continuity of everything. But if he's asking for too much money, I'm cool with like just letting him walk. But hopefully Spot Track is spot on with that $7.2 million that they're projecting him to sign for a deal. I'd give him that. For wide receiver De'Ami Brown, really cheap $2 million per year deal. Even though I wouldn't be surprised if some other team is looking at what he did in the playoffs and like, yeah, I want to give him more money than that. I'm personally not going much higher than that. So just like with Bobby Wagner, De'Ami Brown, if you're asking for more money than I'm willing to give you, cool, walk. But if you're willing to take this low price, then I'm willing to re-sign him. But I'm just not sure if he will. But hey, $2 million a year, maybe 3. I'm starting to stretch it for me if we're talking about 4. But that's just me personally. I don't feel like we need to bring back De'Ami Brown. It would just be nice if we did. And then number 5, if and only if quarterback Marcus Mariota for the Spot Track projected $4.2 million per year that they're saying that he'll sign, I'll bring him back. But I doubt that he'll sign for that little. Maybe I'm tripping, but I even saw reports a few weeks ago that the Raiders may even bring him over to compete for like a starting quarterback job or something like that. So, and then that's going to get him way more money than $4.2 million for a 1-year deal. So, but hey, if Spot Track is spot on and he only wants $4.2 million for real, I would love to have him back as our backup quarterback. We'll love it. Then 6, edge rusher Dante Fowler. $4 million a year sounds nice for him. Maybe you sign him to another 1-year deal. At longest, maybe a 2-year deal that's around $4 million a year. Zach Ertz, give him a 1-year deal for $4 million as well. Definitely bring him back in. Zach Ertz, I like him so much that maybe I'd even stretch it to like $5 or $6 million. We'll see. Then Cornelius Lucas, I have at $2.1 million per year. Noah Benogany, he shouldn't be your starting corner, but he's an elite backup corner, elite depth corner back, and I really want him back. So $2.3 million per year. I'd probably even give him a little bit more than that just to make sure we keep him. Noah Benogany is one of my favorite players to potentially bring back. Offensive lineman Trent Scott, maybe like $1.5 million per year. He looked pretty good at right guard, looked better at guard than he ever looked at tackle for us. And then John Bates at 11, another $1.5 million per year. Even though I wouldn't be surprised if they just look at Ben Sinnott as one of the best blocking tight ends in the NFL already. And then he has pass rush upside potentially. John Bates is just purely a blocker and that's it. So they may move on from John Bates unless he's willing to take an extremely team-friendly deal. But I'd be willing to give him $1.5 million. But more than that, nah, I'm like, yeah, you can walk. Then special teamer Nick Bellore, $1.3 million per year as a Pro Bowl special teamer. You know, what's the price for that? I'll be willing to give that for him. And then Chris Rodriguez, the running back who a lot of us are fans of and want him to take a bigger role, even though I'm to the point that I just want another running back at this point because clearly this organization doesn't value Chris Rodriguez as much as many of us fans do. Either way, he's an exclusive rights free agent, so we could probably sign him to like a $1 million per year deal for like maybe the next year or two or something like that, and then that's just what it is unless another team tries to match us and force us to raise it. But I'm pretty sure, I mean, all of the times he was on the practice squad, other teams could have came and snatched him up from us, and they didn't. So you could bring back Chris Rodriguez for extremely cheap. So now after all of that, going from the $82 million in cap space that we started with, after we re-signed all of those guys at the prices that I said, our cap space remaining would be somewhere between like $42.8 million and $55 million. And remember, contracts are backloaded. I feel like that's another thing people forget about. So for example, like if we sign somebody for say $15 million per year on like a 3-4 year deal, he'll probably only be like a $7 to $9 million cap hit that first year of his deal in 2025. Like, remember how this regime, like not even the previous regime, now I'm not talking about years ago, I'm talking about just last offseason, less than a year ago, when we signed Dorrance Armstrong last year to I think a 3 or 4 year deal. He signed an $11 million per year deal, but his 2024 cap hit was only $4.8 million. So remember that. When you're looking at Spot Track market values, Pro Football Focus market values, even though if it says they're making $15 million per year, they're typically backloaded, and the first year's cap hit will probably be way less, especially with how this regime does things. And then Brandon Sosna, I mean, is contract finesse God. Arguably, nobody does it better than him in the NFL. That's why I'm super excited, because we brought him in after free agency last year. So now this is going to be Brandon Sosna's first offseason fully with the Commanders. I can't wait to see what contract finesses we do now, because he's been given credit for all of the contract finesses that the Lions did for them to be able to even put together the roster that they had last year with all of those great players. I think he'll come and do the same thing for us. So I'm really excited. I'm very optimistic. Basically, I'm looking at all of our contract situations, what contracts we could potentially sign the guys to, super glass half full, because we already did a fantastic job last year at getting guys at great value. I'm expecting more production based over like what they're actually costing us in cap hits, and then Brandon Sosna is only going to help and help that and make it even better. And don't forget that trading away or cutting Jonathan Allen would also give us an additional $16.3 million in cap space. So assuming that we do move on from Jonathan Allen via trade or release, we would actually end up having between $59.1 to $71.3 million in cap space after re-signing all of those players. A lot of those guys, even starters like Jeremy Chin, Bobby Wagner, Zach Ertz, Dante Fowler wouldn't necessarily be a starter, but he'd be a pretty serious rotational piece. Like I've been saying, I want to trade for Myles Garrett and sign Khalil Mack and bring back Dante Fowler. I'm that sick and tired of our edge rusher situation. And I like Dorrance Armstrong's potential, but I mean, his contract isn't that heavy. It's not that crazy of a cap hit to where that stops me from signing as much edge rusher help as I could get. But either way, my point is, you could have potentially up to $71.3 million in cap space after re-signing all of those guys I just gave you, and after, of course, you cut or trade away Jonathan Allen. So now after the re-signings, we still need, and there's no particular order here, we need a left tackle, especially if we move Brandon Coleman to left guard. And my whole logic behind the whole Brandon Coleman thing, I know I've said this several times, but just in case for those of y'all that may not have seen the times I've talked about it in videos the past few days, I think Brandon Coleman could be a really good left tackle still. The reason I want to move Brandon Coleman to left guard is because I don't love Nick Allegretti at left guard. I feel like he's a great backup, but I feel like he's like right about average, maybe slightly below average as far as a starting left guard in the NFL. I feel like the best possible way to put out your best combination of 5 guys for a starting offensive line is to not have Nick Allegretti starting at left guard for you, and Brandon Coleman gives you the versatility and the option to move Brandon Coleman from left tackle to left guard, and then you go get a left tackle in free agency, a starting left tackle. There's a few names out there like Ronnie Stanley and also the guy that we're going to talk about very soon. So that's why I see left tackle is one of our needs, just simply because I want to move Brandon Coleman to start over Nick Allegretti. Plus, I mean, we may need Nick Allegretti to start at right guard for us because of Samuel Cosmi. Who knows if he'll be ready by week 1. So for several reasons, I feel like even though our problem isn't specifically left tackle, I think it will be left tackle once we have to move Brandon Coleman to left guard or right guard for whatever situation. So left tackle is one of my needs. Then game-changing punt and kick returner, please. I like Austin Eckler at kick returns, but then again, that's the reason he kept getting hurt. But he was one of the best kick returns in the NFL, but I'm still looking for a younger option there. Jamison Crowder was our best punt returner. He's old. Austin Eckler is our best kick returner. He's getting up there in age as well. Let's go find like a young guy in the late rounds of the draft, please. Also, I need a wide receiver 2 and a wide receiver 3. Those are 2 completely separate needs. Running back 1, not just a running back. No, I'm talking about a running back that is better than Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler. Also, we need a Zach Ertz successor at tight end. Also, a tight end that's good enough to push that, Cliff Kingsbury to having 2 tight ends on the field at the same time a lot more. Like 12 personnel where both tight ends are receiving options. I love Ben Sinnott, but we haven't unlocked the receiving part of his game yet. I don't know if that's necessarily his fault or if Cliff Kingsbury just isn't utilizing them to the best of his abilities. Either way, I want another tight end that can go out there and on 3rd and 5, you can depend on them to get open and make a catch for a first down. Zach Ertz right now is our only guy that can do that. I would love a second one of those. And plus, Zach Ertz, this may be his last season coming up. A lot of people thought 2024 was going to be his last season. A lot of people felt like he wouldn't even survive the 2024 season, let alone going all the way through that season, playing 20 games. And now we're expecting him to play for us next season. And I mean, you're going to play more than 17 games because we're going to the playoffs. We're competing for Super Bowl, so we're expecting a lot out of Zach Ertz again. I don't see him coming back in 2026. I mean, it's not even a full-on guarantee that he'll come back for 2025, even though I would love to. So we need to go ahead and find a guy that's going to be ready to not only be able to be good enough in 2025 to be out there alongside Zach Ertz at tight end, but we need a guy that's going to be ready to step up and basically become the next Zach Ertz in 2026 and beyond. Then we also need cornerback. Of course, we need edge. I would argue for me, edge rusher is our biggest need. And then we also need a Bobby Wagner successor at linebacker. I like Jordan McGee a lot, and from everything that we've heard from like John Common, guys like that are close to the organization, they really like Jordan McGee as well. I think it's just a matter of him staying healthy. I think y'all will see that this season, that's the guy that's going to replace Bobby Wagner once he's gone. It'll be Jordan McGee, Frankie Louisville, and then whoever else they want involved in the linebacker group. And then defensive tackle, big time. Like, especially after Jonathan Allen inevitably leaves eventually. But I feel like we need defensive tackle even if Jonathan Allen stays. Now let's get to the free agency signings. First up, Rams left tackle Alaric Jackson. I have us signing him to a $16 million per year deal. He's only 27 years old. And again, with the way that these contracts work out, if we sign him to a $16 million per year deal for maybe like 3-4 years, even though I think last year we didn't give anybody a contract 4 years. I think the longest we gave was like 3 years between Dorrance Armstrong and Frankie Louisville and maybe Tyler Biotish as well, I believe. I don't think we gave anybody a 4-year deal, but either way, 3-4 years, whatever we end up doing, $16 million per year. Again, in 2025, the first year of the deal, it would probably only be like a $9 to $10 million cap hit. So I really don't want to have to reach with tackle at the 29th overall pick. I don't think there's going to be any really good ones left at that point. So fix that in March. I already gave you the reason why I feel like we will eventually need left tackle. Because again, I already gave you the reasons why I feel like we should move Brandon Coleman to left guard or right guard. And it's not Brandon Coleman's fault. It's the guys that are at left guard and right guard spot. Left guard, talent, right guard, injury. And so I think when you move Brandon Coleman to left guard or right guard, now you have a needed left tackle. Go solve that in free agency, because I don't think you're going to find that in this draft, especially with as late as we're picking. It's a blessing to pick this late, but you're not going to find certain positions, especially with positional value, like quarterback, left tackle, edge rusher. It's going to be really hard to find guys like that when you're picking in the late 20s, early 30s of the draft. It just is. Now moving on to my second free agency signing, and y'all know I'm banging on the table for this signing right here. Chargers edge rusher Khalil Mack. This is one of the guys that is going to be really difficult for me not to include him in every single offseason mock draft that I do. Now, granted, I'm not going to include him in every one, because I do want to get a little creative here. That's the purpose of these videos. I want to see all sorts of weird combinations that we can put together to try to see, okay, if we go do this at this, and then this and this and this could happen, and then we approach the draft like this and things like that. So I don't want to just be lazy. And to me, it's not even really just laziness. I just want Khalil Mack that bad. I feel like arguably our biggest weakness last year was stopping the run with our defensive linemen. Like, if you had to rank the things that we were worst at out of everything, that like very specific things. I'm not just talking about position group. I'm talking about very specific things that we were good at and bad at last year. I would argue stopping the run, especially stopping the run to the outside, was our biggest weakness. Khalil Mack is still, at this age, at 34 years old, arguably at least the best run-stopping, edge-setting edge rusher in the NFL. That's what we miss in Chase Young and Montez Sweat. Losing them, now teams just run to the outside against us like it's nothing. Just wet toilet paper on the outside. No edges being set, like Dorrance Armstrong a lot, like Dante Fowler's pass rush, and the fact that he had double-digit sacks. But now that those guys can set the edge and stop the run, Khalil Mack not only comes in and does that, but also gives you the pass rush upside of a 12 sack guy a season. I see us signing him to like a 1 year, $19 million deal. And if he still looks good, sign him in 2026 to like maybe a 1 year, $22 million deal. Whatever it takes, please go get me Khalil Mack. But that's just me personally. I'm probably going to stop including them in offseason mock drafts from now on, because I've already included them, I believe, maybe in all three of my first, all of my first three mock off seasons. But I don't know, man. I really want Khalil Mack bad, man. You can't convince me that he ain't still got a lot left in that tank, especially in a Dan Quinn defense. Josh Norris and I think Hayden Winks, the underdog fantasy show that they have on YouTube, they broke down why Dan Quinn, combined with Joe Wood Jr., is literally the #1 defensive scheme in the NFL as far as maximizing the talent of a single player and putting them in the best positions to succeed. They basically pointed out the fact that a lot of defensive coordinators, yeah, they're great, they're smart, they're whatever, but whenever they have elite talents, they tend to get lazy. They focus on how do we make the guys that aren't as good better, and then we just let the elite talents just go do what they do. But Dan Quinn, Josh Norris, and Hayden Winks, who have no attachment to the Commanders at all, broke down basically how Dan Quinn and Joe Wood Jr. do not allow that. They would treat a guy like Khalil Mack, or if we trade for Myles Garrett, that's the reason they were talking about it, they would treat him as if he's the backup edge rusher and do whatever they can schematically, X's and O's wise, to get the most out of that guy, even on top of the elite talent that they naturally have. Imagine Khalil Mack in a Dan Quinn system. That's basically what they were saying. Imagine a Myles Garrett in a Dan Quinn system. He would probably break a single season sack record. I believe the same thing with Khalil Mack applies. Now moving on to my next free agency signing. I'm not going to lie, a lot of y'all may not necessarily be fans of him, but I just think that between Cooper Kupp and Deebo Samuel, we're going to end up with one of them. And I potentially see both of them getting cut, and then we end up just signing them rather than having to trade for them. Or maybe you just Jonathan Allen straight up for Cooper Kupp or Deebo Samuel, like I talked about in my video last night / early this morning, depending on where you watched it. But I see us potentially bringing in Rams wide receiver 3. I want to emphasize that. Not a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, Cooper Kupp. Even though I think he could play at a wide receiver 2 level, because Terry McLaurin is always going to demand defensive attention. Cooper Kupp, I mean, I feel like a lot of y'all actually haven't gone and looked at his 2024 highlights. You just see the stats. You look at the stats. You see what other people are saying about him on the internet and Twitter and things like that. And you just assume that he is just completely off. Now, granted, he may not be what he was when he was out there setting NFL records and things like that. But right now, he would be way better than any receiver we had other than Terry McLaurin last year, and it's probably not even close, to be honest with you. He's 32 years old. I see him signing for maybe like a 1 year, $6 million deal, prove it deal, but at the same time, like, hey, we expect you to come in and contribute like a wide receiver 2 at least. So maybe we'll sign him to even more than that. Maybe like 8, maybe 9, maybe even 10 million. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm telling you, go look at his 2024 highlights and tell me that's not somebody that can flourish with Jaden Daniels as the quarterback. I feel like the most important part about Cooper Kupp is that he's always going to be open. I'm not saying that he's literally a definitive wide receiver 2 at this point in his career, like by himself. But again, I see people talking about him as if he's completely fallen off and he just has literally nothing left in the tank. Jaden Daniels at quarterback, Terry McLaurin on one side demanding double teams. Cooper Kupp's always going to be open. Like, when in doubt, Jaden Daniels will always have somebody that's still one of the best route runners in the NFL in Cooper Kupp that's always open. Basically like a wide receiver version of what Zach Ertz was last year. And speaking of Zach Ertz, again, we got 20 games out of Zach Ertz last year. A lot of people, when we signed Zach Ertz, said, that's a waste of a signing. You may get single-digit games out of him this upcoming season. We got 20. A full-blown 20. So whatever this coaching staff is doing, like Dan Quinn, you know, allowing Zach Ertz to take off every Wednesday, not practicing on Wednesdays the entire regular and postseason, whatever this training staff, medical staff, physical therapy staff, whatever they're doing, it's working. So if Zach Ertz can give you 20 games, why can't we be optimistic about Cooper Kupp's availability and durability with us as well? And again, Cooper Kupp is basically the wide receiver version of Zach Ertz. Always open, very dependable. Not the dynamic wide receiver 2 like a T. Higgins or Chris Godwin that you're potentially looking for, but I would definitely take a Cooper Kupp. I would take him as if we know he's our wide receiver 3. We're still in the hunt for a wide receiver 2, but I think he can step up and statistically play like a wide receiver 2. I wouldn't be surprised if Terry McLaurin next year goes for like 1,200 yards and Cooper Kupp gives us like 800, 900. And I would take that any day of the week. You know, Zach Ertz is great, but he shouldn't be your second leading receiver, especially at 34 years old. Now moving on to my next free agency signing. And I feel like this is the one that, you know, probably the most fans would agree on. Like, this is the guy that we need. I feel like there's going to be some pushback against Alaric Jackson because some people probably feel like we don't necessarily need a left tackle. Maybe Brandon Coleman's a good enough left tackle. I know some people don't like Khalil Mack because of his age. And I already know a lot of people are against Cooper Kupp. But how about 49ers cornerback 1? Let's emphasize that. I love Marshall Lattimore, and I think he still has a lot left in the tank. I feel like last year was just bad circumstances for him, you know, getting used to a new defense, injuries and things like that. But Javarius Ward would come in and be your number 1 corner. 49ers, the connection there with Adam Peters. Adam Peters is one of the main reasons that Javarius Ward even ended up with the 49ers. So, you know, Adam Peters is at least eyeing him in free agency. And I feel like this is probably one of the more obvious free agency matches that we can make right now. Like, I feel like there's some pretty obvious, you know, Dan Quinn's looking at Osa Odigizua, who we'll get to soon. You know, you have certain guy like Cliff Kingsbury's probably looking at Christian Kirk as a wide receiver 3 or 4. I feel like, you know, that boy Adam Peters, our general manager, is definitely looking at like Dre Greenlaw, probably looking at Talanoa Hufanga again, especially if we don't bring back Jeremy Chin. But I definitely think Javarius Ward is at the top of Adam Peters' personal wish list. Maybe not the entire Washington Commanders, but Adam Peters specifically with his connection back with the 49ers with them. And Javarius Ward, straight up the A.J. Brown eraser. You could argue that Javarius Ward does a better job of covering A.J. Brown than any other corner in the NFL. I'm not saying Javarius Ward is the best corner in the NFL necessarily, but considering we have to play the Eagles at least a minimum twice a year, it's probably going to be 3 times a year from now on for the next few years. Having the guy that literally does the best specifically against A.J. Brown specifically, I feel like that's a big boost, and he is a cornerback 1. And Marshall Lattimore is your cornerback 2. Mike Sarver's still back in the slot. You could argue that's the best cornerback group in the entire NFL with Javarius Ward as your cornerback 1. I see us signing him to like a $13 million per year deal. 30 years old. His cap hit would probably only be like $6-7 million in 2025. Again, for reasons I've already explained. And then also, I have Cowboys defensive tackle Osa Odigizua signing him as a free agent, man. Another guy where I'm like, please, I'm begging. Give me Khalil Mack. Give me Osa Odigizua. And I promise you, we're going to be way better than we were last year defensively, just off of those 2 players alone. I have us signing him to a $15 million per year deal. He's only 27 years old, like I talked about in my video last night. discussing every possible angle we could about the whole Jonathan Allen situation. Why not go and get Osa Odigizua, who's been way better, way more productive than Jonathan Allen in the past couple of years, and his market value right now, according to Spot Track, is similar to what we're paying Jonathan Allen right now. Maybe just a little bit more expensive ultimately. And so I'm just like, how do you not go and get Osa Odigizua? Now, granted, there's reports that the Cowboys are trying to do whatever they can to keep him, but he may just want to leave and just go join the Super Bowl contender and join his ex-defensive coordinator and Dan Quinn, Joe Wood Jr., all of those guys. So he's only 27 years old. And again, at like $15-16 million per year, he would probably only be like an $8 to $9 million cap hit in 2025. That's why we would still have so much money available to sign all of these other guys as well. And now I was still, even with the Osa Odigizua, and even with Johnny Newton, I believe in him to get better, especially with the fully healthy offseason finally. I still want to go get like a super big 330 pound defensive tackle to be like that true run stuffing double team eater type of guy, kind of with John Ridgeway was for us in a way. I feel like we really missed a John Ridgeway type last year. We needed that bad. But Osa Odigizua is one of the best pass rushing defensive tackles in the NFL, like arguably top 3. And then he also does a great job of eating up double teams and still getting to the quarterback. I think Johnny Newton has the whole Osa Odigizua thing to me is he's literally what you hope Johnny Newton turns into. Why not go ahead and get him and have him and Johnny Newton as arguably the best pass rushing defensive tackle duo in the NFL, and then bring in maybe potentially like later in the draft, with this being the deepest defensive tackle draft class arguably in NFL history that a lot of people are saying. Daniel Jeremiah said there's 24 starting caliber defensive tackles in this draft. If you need one, this is the year to get one. So we can find like a 330 pounder that can eat up double teams and stop the run very effectively in like maybe the 4th or 5th round. So go get Osa. You pair him up with Johnny Newton. We'll see what Deron Payne still has left in the tank. And then you have Khalil Mack as one of your edge rushers. Come on, man. This would be an entirely different defense this year just off of doing that alone. And then, before we move on to the mock draft, I do want to point out the fact that the only thing that I couldn't get that I truly feel like we need in free agency or via trade was a true wide receiver 2, or basically like a wide receiver 1B to Terry McLaurin with the free agency class that I just gave you. But I mean, the main problem is who's even available. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, I have a guy in the draft that for sure has the ceiling to be that guy. You'll see in my mock draft soon. That has the ceiling to be like a wide receiver 2 and potentially force Cooper Kupp to move from wide receiver 2 to like a wide receiver 3 type of thing. We'll see if he can reach that ceiling. But again, my only regret from this free agency class is not getting a T. Higgins or a Chris Godwin, who I feel like both teams will do whatever it takes to keep them. With T. Higgins, I can see them potentially tagging him if they have to. Chris Godwin, I've already seen reports that the Buccaneers are going to do everything they can to keep him. And then Garrett Wilson and DK Metcalf, I would love to trade for both guys, but neither of them have even requested for trades yet. Like, what is the, I know a lot of people want a lot of these top wide receiver names that we've been throwing out there, but who's even actually for real available? Amari Cooper, maybe that's probably the best free agent wide receiver out there. Stephon Diggs. Like, that's the best we could do, basically. Or, again, Cooper Kupp or Deebo Samuel. That's literally the wide receiver market right now. So, I think you got to do what you got to do and at least secure a guy like a Cooper Kupp, who at worst is a really good wide receiver 3, maybe like a mid-tier wide receiver 2, like an I wide receiver 2 that's always going to be open. And then maybe you go for ceiling in the draft. So yeah, man, we really got to sit down and have a serious discussion about what this wide receiver market actually is, because it's pretty ugly right now. Now let's dive into my trade back mock draft. All right, let's do it. So first of all, I got to talk about how we got the picks that we ended up getting. And first of all, I did this with the NFL mockdraftdatabase.com website. I'm trying out different websites, so let me know by the end of this, or even if you've had experience using this website before I even get into my mock draft. Let me know if you think this is a good mock draft simulator website or not, if I should try another one, if I should consistently use this one, if I should stick with this one, or never use this one again. Either way, though, first, I have us trading our 29th pick in the first round to the Cleveland Browns for their 33rd overall pick in the second round, 67th overall pick in the third round, 94th overall pick in the third round, 257th overall pick in the 7th round, and a 2026 6th rounder. I personally don't see us getting that much value moving from 29th to 33rd, but Again, this website let me get away with it. I'm having fun today. And then the second trade I did was trade our 79th overall third rounder and 148th overall fifth rounder to the Cincinnati Bengals for their 81st third rounder, 118th fourth rounder, and 195th overall sixth rounder. I think that's pretty realistic. That one makes a lot more sense. I just don't see a team in the Browns going from up 4 spots and then giving us in return a third rounder, a seventh rounder, and then a next year sixth rounder. I don't think it's that serious, me personally. But hey, man, whatever they got going on, I mean, they are the NFL mock draft database. Whatever they have in their data and their history says that made sense. I mean, that was literally a trade. I didn't even have to force it. That was literally the trade that the Browns gave me. I don't even think I offered that trade. They offered me that trade. I was like, well, I wanted to trade. I already had a feeling of trading back, but now I'm definitely doing it. Then I got a little carried away because I traded back again midway through the draft. Again, I traded our 79th overall once we got to that pick, and then we moved back to 81st. But again, we'll get there. And just to let you know, the reason that I do see this potentially happen, even though I don't see us getting that much in return to move back just 4 spots, but I know Adam Peters trusts his scouting and his coach's development enough to the point that he wants as many shots at the dartboard as possible. So I see us trading back at least twice in this upcoming draft, honestly, and that will result in us picking 33rd overall as our first selection of the draft in the second round, and then 61st, 67th, 81st, 94th, 118th, 195th, 207th, 238th, and 250th, and 257th. And on top of the 2026 Cleveland Browns 6th rounder that I got, which again were all trades that were accepted, or even the first one was offered to me by the NFL mock draft database.com. Clearly, for some reason in their database, the Cleveland Browns really want to move up 4 spots, I guess. And for the sake of this video being done sooner, I'm going to stock this mock draft after that 118th pick. So we're going to do the 33rd, the 61st, 67th, 81st, 94th, and 118th. We're not going to do the last 5 after that. Just for the spirit of this video is already going to be ridiculously long. So again, that's 5 more players to find after that, and I have some more sleepers that I do want to talk about eventually. So if I do a video where it's just purely mock draft and that's it, maybe I'll do that after the combine. Then we'll go into later round draft picks like that, so I can put y'all on some more draft steals. You know, that's one of the main reasons I do these mock drafts. It's literally to okay, it forces me to do research on some of these guys that may go in the 5th, 6th, 7th rounds, or maybe even undrafted free agents. Then I'm like, ooh, I would love to get this guy. Let me make sure y'all know about him. So that's one of the main catalysts. Usually when I start my mock drafts, I start with those later round draft picks, because those are the guys that are the reason for why I'm doing these mock drafts. So I promise you, I will get to the late round draft picks next time we're doing some sort of a mock draft. But this one, it's already too long with the free agency, re-signings, all of that type of stuff. I'm already 43 minutes into recording. We haven't even started the mock draft. Now let's kick it off. So with our first pick, round 2, 33rd overall, Av is taking linebacker Jahad Campbell out of Alabama. Now, granted, he's fairly redundant, because I do feel like, he's basically like a higher ceiling Frankie Louvu. And then if you're bringing back Bobby Wagner to start, it's kind of like, well, where is he going to play? Especially if you bring in Khalil Mack at edge. But I do see him as, if you see him as more of an off-ball linebacker, as 4-time Pro Bowler Anthony Barr as a comp, or he has Micah Parsons' potential as an edge rusher. I'm probably higher on Jahad Campbell than most people are, but then again, I'm a Georgia Bulldog fan. Going against Alabama, I've seen, this guy is way more talented than I believe he gets credit for. And I think after this combine, when he tests very well, a lot of people are going to start to look at him like there's no way he makes it to the 33rd overall pick. Right now, he probably could, but I think after this combine, people are going to see, hey, wait a minute, maybe we need to go back and look at that tape a little bit differently. Don't watch the tape for production, watch the tape for potential, and think about the fact that with the coaching staff that we have and how we could develop this guy he does have a Micah Parsons ceiling to him. I'm not guaranteeing he's literally Micah Parsons, like an Abdul Carter is literally, I would bet money he turns out to be as good as Micah Parsons. I'm not saying that for Jahad Campbell, but there's some Micah Parsons shades of it in his game. I mean, whichever you prefer for him to do most of the time, he can do that. Like with this linebacker group that we put together in this mock free agency so far, I would see him more as an edge rusher than an all-ball linebacker. But say we figure out edge rusher, we trade for Myles Garrett or something, and then you sign Khalil Mack in free agency, then we wouldn't have a first round pick to get him. But hey, if you were to make it to the second round and then he's there, I wouldn't be surprised if we drafted him and then we played him at off-ball linebacker rather than what his highest ceiling is at edge rusher. But don't forget, again, that he could do both, and I believe Dan Quinn and Joe Wood Jr. will utilize both very well. Again, like we talked about earlier, they're not lazy defensive coordinators. They will put him in the best situations to succeed. So if we have too many off-ball linebackers, he'll play more edge. If we have too many edge rushers, he'll play more off-ball linebacker. And even Daniel Jeremiah mocked him to us last week in his mock draft 2.0 based off of what he's been hearing around the NFL. And he also said that he has known Adam Peters for a long time now, for years now, and knows what he likes. And he said in his mock draft, quote, Campbell is one of my favorite players in the entire class. I believe you'll see some teams work him out as edge rusher this spring. When he's allowed to rush, and that's like what he's purely doing, he flashes elite potential, unquote. And again, he's very similar to Micah Parsons to me, where he shows elite pass rushing skills when he's being allowed to rush, but for some reason, his college coaches, just like Micah Parsons, still prefer for him to play at off-ball linebacker as much as possible rather than going to his calling, which is edge rusher, which he can be great at. But I think not only does edge rusher have higher positional value than off-ball linebacker, of course, but also he has a higher ceiling at edge rusher as well. I think he could be a really good off-ball linebacker. Again, I can see him being like prime four-time Pro Bowler Anthony Barr as off-ball linebacker, but I think he has Micah Parsons edge rusher potential. Again, I think he could be a really good off-ball linebacker, but at this point, I feel like you'd be trolling yourself by not having him go after the quarterback like Micah Parsons consistently. Like, just imagine Micah Parsons as an off-ball linebacker more often than him being an edge rusher. I feel like you would feel the same way about Jahad Campbell. I feel like Jahad is very similar in that way. But again, either way, just draft this guy, and he will be great at no matter what you ask him to do. I've also seen several Tremaine Edmonds comps, and y'all know how bad I really wanted Tremaine Edmonds when he was coming out of college. So this could be what I basically wanted years ago. Maybe it's a few years late, but hey, we got him. And hey, if Jahad Campbell ends up being and again, I've seen several different experts, different websites, all kinds of people comparing him to Tremaine Edmonds. I would love to get a hold of that. I don't care how many Tremaine Edmondses you already have on the team. Go get another one. So I know he feels a little redundant, but hey, at the very least, you're still getting a very good player. And then next up, round 2, 61st overall, I was taking running back Travion Henderson out of Ohio State. I see him basically as a healthy and no fumbling version of 3-time All-Pro Jamal Charles. I think Travion Henderson arguably has one of the highest ceilings out of this entire running back class, or even just out of any player regardless of position. I wouldn't be surprised, especially like say if Aston Gentry goes to a situation, because he's going to be drafted higher, to where his offensive line isn't as good as wherever Travion Henderson ends up. I can see Travion Henderson easily having the best rookie season out of all running backs in this class, and one of the better careers out of every running back in this class. I wouldn't be surprised if Travion Henderson ends up becoming a top 15 running back sooner rather than later. I've also seen Clinton Portis comps from even non-Commanders fans on Twitter, like the 33rd team, I believe, said it, like people that have no attachment to the Commanders out of nowhere just digging deep in their memory banks and pulling out Clinton Portis to compare Travion Henderson to. And if it's even non-Commanders fans and reporters saying that, then maybe there's something to that. Now, I want to remind y'all, Henderson was 10th in the country in 15-plus yard runs last season with 21. And he had to split half of the carries with another really good running back prospect in Quinton Junkins. Imagine how many he would have had if he was just the pure RB1 workhorse type of guy. But at the same time, I'm kind of happy that he wasn't, because that also diminishes his draft stock, since he wasn't like productive as productive as a lot of other running backs stats wise, box score wise, because he had to split half of his carries. And also that makes it so to where he doesn't have as much mileage on him. He doesn't have as much wear and tear on him because he wasn't carrying the ball that much. So I'm actually really happy that Quinton Junkins went over to Ohio State. It makes it to where both of them get drafted later, which makes it more likely for us to get them, and they're going to come into the NFL with less mileage on them. But hey man, 15 plus yard runs, we need every bit of that here. We could not get that last year to save our lives at times, man, when we really needed it. Our quarterback was the only one that was really able to pull that off consistently. We need somebody that can consistently get double-digit yardage on runs here. We don't have that right now. Also, Travion Henderson's 94.1 in-game athleticism score from IGA is powered by a 22 miles per hour max speed. Did you know that only 3 NFL ball carriers reached 22 plus miles per hour last season per Next Gen Stats? That was Turpin, Brian Thomas Jr., and Jahmyr Gibbs. The only 3 players out of the entire NFL to reach 22 plus miles per hour running last season, and Travion Henderson did that last year at Ohio State. We super need all of that. Again, if we want to be really specific with the things that we need the most on this team, I would say a run stopping, edge setting, edge rusher that can also get to the quarterback, but also we need speed in the running back position. That's one of our biggest specific needs on this entire team. We don't have a home run hitter on this team, and we desperately need one, like bad. You know how hard it would be to defend against Jaden Daniels when you have to worry about a running back like that every single play, that any given moment he could take this thing off. Which means you have to tell your safeties, hey, watch out for this guy. But at the same time, you still got to worry about Jaden Daniels as well, which would make things easier on Jaden Daniels. And then don't forget about Travion Henderson's contact balance as well. Out of all running backs in this draft class, he's 3rd in yards after contact per carry with 4.43, only behind Aston Genty and Damian Martinez. And don't forget, as a true freshman, he had 1,248 rushing yards, 15 touchdowns, 312 receiving yards, and 4 touchdowns. Like, as a true freshman. But then this past season, again, he had to split snaps with another great running back prospect in Quinton Junkins, but Travion Henderson has been basically A1 since day one. Just splitting snaps with Junkins lowered his stock quite a bit because his box score stats did inevitably suffer. But his advanced analytics and stats look crazy. First of all, eclipsing 1,000 plus rushing yards while recording only 12 rushing attempts or less in every game this year is absolutely insane in itself. Also, ball security. How about 0 fumbles lost on 667 touches in college? Also, shouts out to Joe Rico on Twitter. He brought up the fact that Travion Henderson was the only 2024 running back out of all of college to have 1,000 plus rushing yards, 200 plus receiving yards, and 7 plus yards per carry out of all of college football. He also said his player comp is Breece Hall. Similar traits: nose for the end zone, top end speed, receiving, blocking, patience. Physicals: Henderson 5'10", 207 pounds, Hall 5'11", 211 pounds. Very similar players. And Daniel Jeremiah even went on to say that Travion Henderson is one of the best blocking running backs he's ever evaluated in the draft. I mean, how could you not want this guy? I'm willing to draft him 29th overall, let alone if he makes it 61st overall. And so I also, again, want to add, on top of what Daniel Jeremiah said, that he is one of the best blocking running backs he's ever evaluated in the draft process in years. I want you to also remember, I don't know if y'all have seen the clip I showed y'all in my running back breakdown video of all of the options we can look for to get an RB1, just like earlier this week or last week, whatever, a few days ago. And I showed y'all the clip of him decleating and putting 320-pound top 10 draft talent out of this entire draft, defensive tackle Mason Graham, on his back. You know, there was an offensive lineman blocking him. Travion Henderson came in to chip him and put Mason Graham on his back, pancaked him. And he's a consistently great running back. It's not just a flash in the pan type of thing. And that's very important because right now our biggest priority on this team is keeping Jaden Daniels healthy. And to have a running back that can do that, first of all, just as another weapon, so defenses can't focus on Jaden Daniels as much, and then also, and then that would also take away some of Jaden Daniels' carries from him, because we would have a more trustworthy running back that could be just as dynamic as Jaden Daniels, but then also he can block for Jaden Daniels as well. I mean, that's a home run pick in my opinion. Then round 3, 67th overall, I have us taking tight end Harold Fannin Jr. out of Bowling Green. I comp him to 5-time All-Pro Antonio Gates, man. And just off the rip, this guy had the most single-season receiving yards by a tight end in college history of 1,555. And I think we could just stop there, honestly. Like, that's it. We can go ahead and move on to the next draft pick. But for real, though, I mean, just to dive a little further, I mean, he's the receiving king. Of course, there's a reason he will be available this far in the draft. Like, why? Oh, if he's that great, why is he even available in the third round? Most of y'all are probably asking. And that would more than likely be because of his blocking concerns and also some level of competition concerns. But we're going to debunk that real soon. But yeah, the blocking concerns are there. But that's the same thing as Zach Ertz. There were blocking concerns with him when he first got into the NFL. But then eventually he got pretty good at it. And he's been considered a dual threat tight end, not only in his prime, but even as recently as last year for us. And Fannin is only coming out of college 20 pounds lighter than right now seasoned veteran Zach Ertz is. So he could add some more weight, get him to some more, into like a NFL weight program, NFL nutrition program and things like that. I think he can get strong enough to be a true dual threat tight end. He's just not coming in with that day one. He comes in as an elite receiving target for Jaden Daniels level 1. And again, there's the level of competition concerns. But like I said before, this is an insanely deep tight end class. It's wise to get at least one of them right. And this is a perfect match and perfect value for a guy that we can groom into literally being the Zach Ertz replacement, while Ben Sinnott is more of like our better blocking, Kyle Juszczyk more like a fullback type of tight end. Fanning could be the mismatch nightmare where it's 3rd and 8. He's guaranteed to find a way to get open. That's the guy Jaden Daniels is looking at first when he snaps the ball. Like, imagine Zach Ertz in his prime type of thing. I think that's arguably between Antonio Gates and Zach Ertz in his prime. I feel like those are the best comps for Harold Fannin Jr. Think of David Njoku on his best day. Like the very best game David Njoku has ever had in his NFL career. That's Harold Fannin Jr. as well. Or I also see a lot of people compare him to Isaiah Likely. And if you're going to do that, you have to comp him to that week 1 of the 2024 regular season Isaiah Likely when the Ravens, when they lost because Isaiah Likely just one toe out of bounds. But when he had 9 catches for 111 yards in that season opener and should have had that game-winning touchdown, if he was just 1 more inch in bounds, that's Harold Fannin Jr. if you want to comp him to Isaiah Likely. And I think that Isaiah Likely could easily go in the first round in other drafts, but maybe not last year with my Georgia dog Brock Bowers involved. But this draft is just loaded with tight end talent. So we kind of luck out here. Like, it's a pick your type of class where they have every type of tight end that you could possibly need. A blocking one, or elite receiving one, a jump ball one, a dual threat, whatever you need, there's a tight end like that. Like, honestly, if it weren't for the existence of Tyler Warren and Colson Loveland and the fact that there are just so many other talented tight ends that you could just wait and get outside of the first round, I believe Harold Fannin for sure would be a first round pick. I think he has first round pick potential and talent to him. And then his acceleration is crazy. Let's not forget that. He has great natural hands, and he also has great yak ability as well, which is something Zach Ertz does not have. His only problem is that he doesn't project well as a great blocker off rip with his lack of weight at only 230 pounds right now, but he's a very willing blocker and does dominate defensive backs and linebackers at times. Just don't expect him to block Myles Garrett consistently and shut him down type of thing. But you can move block with him as well. He's a great puller. He'll come over as a pulling blocker and deliver a big hit on a guy like Myles Garrett. And I would say he is super strong for his size, but at the same time, there's only so much you could do blocking wise at 230 pounds. He just needs to get into an NFL weight room and in a nutrition program. I think he'll just be fine. If he gains some real mass and some real strength, watch out. I wouldn't be surprised if we look back years from now and Harold Fannin Jr. ends up actually being the best tight end of this class. I just feel like Loveland and Colson, all of those other guys, Tyler Warren, are the far safer prospects. But Harold Fanning, the potential in the ceiling is definitely there. But anyway, we would be drafting him again to be an elite receiving tight end. The blocking will be extra. He is an elite jump ball target who knows how to contort his body anyway to make whatever catch he has to, which is a very unique skill that you just can't teach. He also knows how to sell routes very well, just like Zach Ertz. You'll be able to trust him to get open on third and gotta get it situations. And I know he usually played against low level of competition most of the time, but again, to debunk that, like I previewed earlier, I mean, when he was the only hope, the only weapon for his entire team on offense, he still balled out against Penn State and Texas A&M. Had 282 receiving yards combined from both of those games. I mean, he also has experience lining up everywhere too if you like versatility. I mean, like even in the backfield at times. And one last stat, this guy had a 0.82 wins above replacement average, which was higher than even Brock Bowers, two of Brock Bowers' seasons in college football. Pro Football Focus gave him a 96.3 receiving grade, and I trust that Cliff Kingsbury, if there's anybody in the NFL that can figure out to put Harold Fannin Jr. in situations to succeed as much as possible, it's him. Now round 3 again, but this time 81st overall live is taking wide receiver Savion Williams out of TCU. And I think he's literally Cordero Patterson, but some people are saying Julio Jones ceiling. I'm not going to go that far, especially out of respect as a Georgia Bulldog fan and as a Falcons hater. I know every bit of Julio Jones and how ridiculous he was. It's just he had to have been made in a lab type of guy. Now, Savion Williams is one of the freakiest athletes coming out in this draft class, but to compare him to Julio Jones, I don't know. I gotta see it to believe it. But Cordero Patterson, I feel like, is a very safe comp. And to be honest, I feel like all I need to do is tell you to go watch what Cordero Patterson did just a couple of years ago against us when we played the Falcons in 2021. When he had 5 catches for 82 yards and 3 touchdowns, we literally couldn't cover that guy to save our lives. Go watch that game and think of that, but faster. A lot of people even comp him to being like a 6'5 Deebo Samuel in his prime, when Deebo Samuel actually was going out there and balling out. This guy is 6'5", 230 pounds, and is projected to run a 4.45 40 time. Come on now. Julio Jones, again, is seen as one of the biggest athletic freaks of all time. He ran a 4.39, so this guy isn't even much slower than him. But it's just not that far away. And also, Savion made Bruce Feldman's 2023 Freaks list at number 56, and he wrote, quote, Williams, though, jumps well too, having hit 10.6 on the broad jump and posted a 40-inch vertical, and that was before last year, mind you. Like, he's probably going to test even better than that this week in the Combine. Super upside type of draft pick, and a lot of us have been screaming for us to get a true big body tall receiver to go opposite of Terry McLaurin for years now, especially a guy that can move as well, as that fast and athletic. And with Terry being Terry at the X receiver, Cooper Kupp always being open out of the slot, Zach Ertz is always open at the tight end position, Savion wouldn't be expected to come here and ball out immediately. He could just be basically the Deebo Samuel to offense, or what we tried to use Curtis Samuel to be like, where you just give him the ball and screens underneath, whatever you got to do, even as like a deep target with as accurate as Jaden Daniels is, throwing to a 6'5 guy where the corner doesn't even have a chance to make a play on the ball. I think he could immediately be effective, even while he doesn't really know how to run a full route tree just yet. I feel like Cliff Kingsbury, with him being a genius and all of the guys that are around him and Jaden Daniels at quarterback, I think you would allow him to take his time and develop correctly as far as getting his hands better and more consistent and learning how to run more routes. But for now, out of the backfield, just literally picture a 6'5", 2-3 years ago version of Deebo Samuel when he was killing it. And having a quarterback again like Jaden Daniels, who even had a game where Olamide Zaccheaus and Jamison Crowder had 2 touchdowns each in the same game, I'm fully expecting Savion to hit his ceiling sooner rather than later. If there's any environment where Savion Williams can ball out, it's this one. I know a lot of people have PTSD with TCU wide receivers. I'm not even going to bring up his name because it feels like Voldemort at this point from, a few years ago. But either way, man, I think this guy could come in and ball out. Come in here, no pressure, and plenty of opportunities and greatness around him. I feel like this is the perfect situation for him to nurture in. If I'm Savion Williams, I'm like begging, please, Commanders, draft me. Y'all are the perfect situation for me to blossom into a potentially an even better and faster version of Cordero Patterson. And shouts out to Eli Cooper of NFL Draft Buzz, because I completely agree with his summary of Savion Williams, even after I watched tape on him as well. He said, quote, first round talent with day 3 polish. That's the perfect line right there off rip. Continuing, makes Williams one of the draft's most fascinating evaluations. The gap between his elite athletic traits and his technical refinement suggests a focused development plan will be crucial. While he may not be ready for a full route tree immediately, his ability to stress defenses vertically and create with the ball in his hands will demand defensive attention from day 1. The foundation is there for a dynamic offensive weapon. He just needs time and coaching to reach that ceiling. Again, what better situation than this one? Jaden Daniels is your quarterback. You have Travion Henderson as your running back. Defense is going to have to game plan against him. You have a new and improved offensive line. Then you have Terry McLaurin, Zach Ertz, and Cooper Kupp that are always open. I don't see how anybody could be against this. I mean, let me know if I'm selling y'all on this or not. Then round 3 again, but this time 94th overall, I have us taking guard Tate Ratledge out of UGA. This is a Georgia Bulldog, man. You know I couldn't go too many mock drafts without a Georgia Bulldog, right? You know, this is my 3rd mock draft so far. This is my first Georgia Bulldog that I took. And just to let you know, I feel like his perfect comp, like this is a very specific comp, but I feel like his perfect comp is gap scheme dependent Quentin Nelson as a ceiling. Just imagine Quentin Nelson, but he's way better in a gap scheme than a zone run scheme. I think that's literally Tate Ratledge. Don't forget that Tate Ratledge was the 2nd highest rated offensive lineman out of the entire college football 25 game when it first came out. Injuries just, you know, set a season back. It made people forget about him for some reason, because this is like a 1st round talent type of guy. I still believe he has 1st round talent in him, but we'll see. Getting him in the 3rd round would be a huge steal in my opinion. For some reason, the NFL mock draft database feels like he'll make it that far, but a lot of people just are actually lower on him than I am. I love this pick because it gives you so much flexibility on the offensive line as well. Check out these scenarios. First scenario, I'm not expecting Samuel Cosmi to be ready week 1 of the regular season. So how about Alaric at left tackle, Brandon Coleman at right guard over Nick Allegretti, at left guard, my fault, over Nick Allegretti, because Nick Allegretti is an elite backup, but again, a slightly below average starting guard. I want to move Coleman to guard because of Allegretti, not because of Coleman, like I explained earlier. And if you want to put the 5 most talented guys possible out there at the same time, I think you probably have to sign Ronnie Stanley or Alaric Jackson in free agency, like I did in this mock offseason, left tackle, and then in this mock free agency, move Coleman to guard. Allegretti is not starting, and then of course you have Tyler Biadasz at center. Then you would have Andrew Wiley at right tackle, and then you could just easily move Tate right there at starting right guard until Cosmi is back. And then I believe Tate is fire enough to where you don't even have to rush Cosmi back. Take your time. This boy Tate Ratledge is the truth. Take your time, Cosmi. Don't come back until you're fully ready. Like, I feel like Tate Ratledge is honestly good enough to where you don't have to rush Cosmi back. And then also I have a second scenario. How about, like, and the first scenario is probably how we start the season, but how about later on in the season, maybe a few weeks in, everybody's healthy, including Cosmi. I would argue that the most talented 5 offensive linemen you can have on the field at the same time would be Alaric Jackson at left tackle, Brandon Coleman at right tackle instead of Wiley, then of course Tyler Biadasz at center, Cosmi at right guard, and then you start Tate Ratledge at left guard, and then now Andrew Wiley is a really good, elite, arguably backup tackle. And then you have Nick Allegretti as an elite backup guard. That's insane offensive line depth. You have 2 arguably started offensive linemen that are on the bench for you in Allegretti and Wiley. Again, Alaric Jackson left tackle, Tate Ratledge left guard, then Tyler Biadasz, then Samuel Cosmi, then Brandon Coleman at right tackle if you still want Brandon Coleman to play tackle. I mean, I'm telling you, that would be an insane offensive lineup right there, but that's just my personal opinion. I think Tate Ratledge has 1st round talent written all over him. Again, I think literally in a gap scheme specifically, he can literally be Quentin Nelson. I'm not lying to you. He's one of my favorite Georgia offensive linemen that we've had in years. I'm telling you, hey, just watch out. You'll see. If you, hey, listen to me now, believe me later. I'm telling y'all, this time next year, you'll look back and be like, man, if we didn't end up drafting Tate Ratledge, you're gonna wish that we did. Now, moving on to round 4, 118th overall, and again, like I said earlier, this is going to be my last pick of the mock draft. I'm not gonna do the next 5 picks after this because I'm an hour and 10 minutes in the recording right now. Either way, though, I was taking cornerback Kobe Bryant out of Kansas. That's Cobee Bryant out of Kansas. And literally, his comp is prime Marshawn Lattimore. Now, when I first personally watched this tape, it didn't scream Marshawn Lattimore to me, but then I saw several different people from different websites, different organizations, all saying that they comp him to Marshawn Lattimore. So then I went back and watched more of his tape with Lattimore kind of in the back of my head while watching the tape. And now I actually do kind of see it. Like, and also listen to this from NFL Rookie Watch on Twitter. He said, quote, Kobe Bryant has some of the most experience against elite NFL wide receivers of any cornerback in this year's draft. And I agree. I mean, one NFL scout reportedly believes Bryant has the intangibles to become a star, not even just a good cornerback one, a star cornerback one in the NFL, and even sees similarities to Denzel Ward. I can see that comp a little bit as well. He said, because they pointed out the fact that when Bryant was covering Quentin Johnston in 2022, he only had 3 targets, 1 reception allowed for 24 yards. That's it. When he was covering Xavier Worthy, 1 reception allowed for 24 yards. When he was covering Tank Dell in 2022, 0 targets, 0 yards. When he was covering Travis Hunter, just this most recent season, 2024, 7 targets, only 4 receptions allowed for 51 yards and 2 passes defense. He has experience covering not only great receivers, great receiver talents, but like all sorts of types of receivers, like Xavier Worthy with that elite speed, then Travis Hunter with his elite athleticism, Tank Dell with the route running and things like that. I mean, Kobe Bryant is as experienced and battle tested as they come. And I'm willing to take a chance on that for sure. And across 4 seasons, Bryant has only allowed just 99 receptions across 171 targets, which is a 57.9%, while also racking up 13 interceptions and 18 passes defensed. I will take a guy that's willing to battle like that, especially with the current cornerback room that I put together of Travarius Ward, Marshawn Lattimore, Mike Sanderstill, and then Noah Benogany is part of your cornerback depth. And then you throw this guy in there, so he's allowed to develop, because those top guys, I mean, he wouldn't really see the field much early on. But hey, as he develops and comes in as part of the rotation, Kobe Bryant is a battler. I will take my chances on him any day of the week, man. Because at the very least, he's not afraid of anybody. And honestly, the majority of playing corner successfully in the NFL is confidence. Athleticism and size matters, length, all of that type of stuff. And of course, technique, awareness, and nuance matters even more than athleticism. And then I would say confidence actually matters the most. I feel like that's the most important part. And Kobe has that in spades, plenty of that. No fear at all in him. And that's my favorite part about him. And I can always work with that. And that's the type of guy that Dan Quinn and Joe Wood Jr. are salivating over in this draft process right now. I wouldn't be surprised if they have their eyes on him right now. He's super their type of guy, especially with the fact that he's also a dog against the run, which is something that Forbes was not at all, which was the main reason he got cut. Jahan Dotson didn't want to block, got traded. Forbes didn't want to tackle and against running backs, got cut. This team is not playing about stuff like that. There's a certain mentality you got to have, and Kobe Bryant comes in day one with that mentality and is a true threat against another team's run game, for sure. The only concern is his lack of size, which is literally the main reason why he'd even make it this far in the draft. And maybe if this were last year, I wouldn't have taken him just because of his lack of size. But Dan Quinn and Joe Wood Jr. have not only shown a willingness to draft small corners in Mike Sanderstill, but also to get aggression and run game stopping out of small corners like Mike Sanderstill. So I think they would just repeat, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Repeat the same, rinse and repeat. You got Mike Sanderstill, it worked out very well for you. Why not go ahead and get Kobe Bryant, especially since you already have Charvarius Ward and Marshawn Lattimore on the team in this mock free agency. And then again, with those last few draft picks, I'm not going to talk about them here, but I do want to point out the fact that with those last 5, make sure you get a true punt and kick returner, like a franchise guy. I think it's going to be hard to find like a Turpin clone from the Cowboys, but hey, at least find somebody that's in that realm, and then also find some more defensive tackle depth. Again, go look for one of those huge 320, 330 pound double team eating John Ridgeway type of guys, because there's just no way we don't take a defensive tackle at some point in this draft, and arguably the deepest defensive tackle draft class ever. That's what people are saying right now. So I'm just already assuming, even though I'm not going to use these last 5 draft picks in this video, I'm pretty sure we would use them on a returner, a defensive tackle, and maybe even a kicker. It may even be that serious. I should have included that in my breakdown of all of our biggest needs after we got done with all of the re-signings. I should have included kicker. That's my fault. Kicker is one of our biggest needs right now for sure. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Of course, very long video, but let me know if you agree or disagree with any of my points as far as re-signings, free agency, the mock draft. I mean, it's so much to talk about, and y'all know me, man. I've been super busy, but I'm gonna try my best to really get into this comment section and read and reply to as much as possible, because I really, more than anything else, I want y'all to put me on to some players I don't know about. Any like 3rd rounders, 4th rounders, 5th rounders, 6th rounders, 7th rounders that you know of that, hey, Rico, you might be sleep on this guy. You may want to include him in your next mock draft, or at least be on the lookout for the Commanders to target him in the draft in a couple of months. That's the main reason I'm going to be in the comment section. So put me on to some of the sleepers, gems, and steals that you may have in the late rounds of the draft, because that's, again, one of the main reasons I do these mock drafts. drafts, which is why I feel like I've betrayed myself with this mock draft by not doing those last 5 picks, because that's literally one of my favorite parts of doing these mock drafts, the late round, because everybody knows a lot of these top guys are great. That's easy. That's obvious. Everybody's talking about Ashton Genty, Abdul Carter. I want to talk about the guys that other people don't know about, where you're putting on your real coaching hat, your real film study all 22 hat, and you're finding gems, guys that maybe other NFL teams that are getting paid millions of dollars don't know about. That's what I'm here for. So please let me know all of that in the comment section. But of course, I also want feedback on my free agency class, the guys that I chose to re-sign, the guys that I chose not to re-sign. Let me know how you feel about the cap hits and the market values and the logic that I explained, that, you know, based off of how we do contracts, even $15 million per year is probably only going to be like a $7-8 million cap hit in 2025. Let me know how you feel about every little detail in this over hour long video. Let me know if you want more videos this long too, or do you want me to break them up? Would you prefer just a free agency mock, you know, a mock free agency separately and then a mock draft separately as well, or do you prefer for all of them to come together like this, like I did in this video? Let me know how you feel about all of that. And of course, as promised, first of all, if you made it this far in this video, I'm going on 1 hour and 17 minutes of recording. We'll see what it ends up being after when I edit it, but I salute you for making it this far in the video. If you still hear my voice and still see me talking, you are the GOAT, man. I really appreciate you. And as promised, I have the answer to the trivia question. The answer was Brad Johnson. A lot of y'all probably got that, but for me, I mean, again, by the time I even knew what football was, I was too young, 1999, to know what was even going on. So that's probably why I didn't know this question. But either way, shouts out to any of y'all that knew that question. Hey, I love this trivia stuff, man, because y'all be getting it right in the comment section before I even give y'all the answer. So I know this burgundy and gold fan base has some real football knowers out there. We really do. Either way, I really appreciate y'all. Again, let me know in the comment section how you feel about everything. Make sure you do not leave this video without leaving a like. I'm gonna catch y'all later. Appreciate y'all. I'm out.